From the famous authentic hadith, we learn that Surah Al-Ikhlas is equivalent to 1/3 of the Quran. Now, logically and mathematically, this implies that if I read Surah Al-Ikhlas 3 times, I have effectively recited the entire Quran in under a minute. But the thing is, with this logic, many questions or problems arise. For example, if one surah with 4 ayat is equivalent to 1/3 of the Quran, why learn the Quran? Why not just learn this small surah and recite it 3 times every day? And you've achieved the same reward as reciting the entire Quran, which would take hours. If Surah Al-Ikhlas equals 1/3 of the Quran, then how is it possible that according to another authentic hadith, Surah Al-Fatiha is the greatest surah? So how is it better? Is it better? And can we recite Surah Al-Ikhlas in prayer 3 times and it would then cover for all the other surahs, including Al-Fatiha? So how do we address these issues? Now, to answer all these questions, we need to understand the difference between 2 words or concepts in Arabic. They are al-jaza' and al-ijza'. So what do these mean? Well, al-jaza' means reward, a prize you get when you do a deed, while al-ijza' means sufficiency or fulfillment. But what does that mean for us? And how does that help us answer the previous questions? Well, this means that if you read Surah Al-Ikhlas 3 times, you do indeed get 100% of the reward of the entire Quran. This is jaza', which is getting your reward as explained by the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. However, if you, for example, have made a vow or nadhr to recite the entire Quran, reciting Surah Al-Ikhlas 3 times does not suffice, or in other words, it does not mean that you had indeed fulfilled your vow or nadhr, which then means that Surah Al-Ikhlas does not provide ijza' or sufficiency. The same applies to prayer. Even if you read Surah Al-Ikhlas not 3 but 300 times, it would still not fulfill or take the place of Surah Al-Fatiha. And so, a surah having a particular reward, no matter how massive it is, does not mean that it is necessarily better than the other. That is why Surah Al-Ikhlas has the weight of 1/3 of the Quran, but Al-Fatiha remains the greatest surah, because the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said so, and prayer is not valid without it. In fact, if you read the entire Quran from Al-Baqarah to An-Nas, your prayer would still not be valid until you have recited Al-Fatiha. So, now we understand that rewards may be similar, but one surah will never actually take the place of another surah, let alone 1/3 of the Quran. Jaza', reward, is not the same as ijza', sufficiency. But now, the real question is, if reading Surah Al-Ikhlas 3 times gives you the reward of the entire Quran, why do we need to actually recite the entire Quran to get the same reward? Wouldn't reciting Surah Al-Ikhlas 3 times be smarter and more logical? Well, great scholars like Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim explain this by differentiating between types of rewards. Not all rewards are the same. Some are better and more superior. In other words, some rewards may be equal in quantity, but not in kind and quality. For example, imagine 2 people. Person A has $10,000 in cash, and person B has $10,000 worth of dates or food. On paper, both of them have the same wealth, but in reality, their wealth is very different. The one with the money can do more with his wealth and use it in many different ways. It is a different type of wealth. So even though person B has equal value of wealth, it is not as good or as useful as the first person's. Now, with this understanding, reading al-ikhlas gives you an equivalent value of reward as 1/3 of the Quran, but it does not give you the specific benefits you get from actually reciting 10 juz of the Quran and all the other side rewards that come with it. To visualize this, let's look at the numbers. Reading Surah Al-Ikhlas 3 times on the one side, and on the other, reciting the entire Quran, 30 juz, word for word. When you complete reading the entire Quran, you get a massive reward, plus the reward for actual recitation of around 323,000 letters. That is roughly 3.2 million hasanat, and Allah may double that for whomever He wills. On the other hand, reading Surah Al-Ikhlas 3 times gives you the same massive reward for the entire Quran, and also around 1,400 hasanat for reading it 3 times. So, the one who reads the whole Quran gets the big reward plus millions of hasanat for the letters, plus the massive reward of tadabbur or contemplation, plus the spiritual impact of spending long hours engaging with Allah's words. So in short, Surah Al-Ikhlas gives you a massive lump sum reward, but reciting the full Quran gives you that plus the detailed rewards of the journey. So what should we do here? Well, you should never miss getting a daily massive reward by reciting Surah Al-Ikhlas. It only takes a minute, but at the same time, don't miss out on even greater rewards when reciting the full Quran correctly and with tadabbur. Finally, why does Surah Al-Ikhlas hold such an important place among other surahs? And why does it give that much reward? Well, scholars explain that the Quran is mainly divided into 3 topics. 1. Qasas, or the stories of the past. Ahkam, which are laws and commandments. And third, Tawheed, which is the theology and the attributes of Allah. Now, Surah Al-Ikhlas is unique because it is entirely stripped of laws and stories. It is purely dedicated to the third category, Tawheed. Therefore, in terms of subject matter and essence, it equals 1/3 of the Quran. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my latest books with their video courses if you want to learn the Quran in Arabic or properly learn its tajweed. Check out the links in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, inshallah.